the human brain has this incredible capacity for guilt. And most people unconsciously let that roll over them and kick their butt and make a horrible life. I love guilt. Guilt is a tool. Guilt is a weapon. Guilt does not have to be a bad thing. It's not like I perpetuate, but I'm like, I love that I feel bad when I don't do a good job. Most people hate that about themselves. I love that feeling. I'm like, I didn't do a good job there. Next time I will. So some people, guilt is discouragement. Other people, it's a signal for learning. To me, guilt is a signal for learning. It is the body and the brain, the spirit, knowing what is right, knowing what is wrong, knowing what's great, knowing what's mediocre. And it's saying, hey, do a little better. Now, if it's translated into a negative impulse, then some people call it guilt. But I'm totally cool with guilt. You know what? I think it's good that we feel bad when we do something that is below our standard or that's not right, because that impulse to go, I want to do that better.
The antidote to guilt is action. If you feel guilt, it's because you are not proud of yourself, because something happened and you did not react or act in the way that you wished that you would. You either did something that you regret doing, or you didn't do something that, again, you regret doing, and then you feel this guilt, like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, I can't believe it, I should have. And you're constantly living in this should have zone, in this guilt zone, in this regret zone, instead of doing anything that actually matters, which is take some kind of action. The reason why I'm even an entrepreneur is because I didn't want to feel guilt and regret. I turned down the job that I wanted, I thought I wanted, and my friends all wanted, to own 30% of a startup company and make $300 a month, because even though I didn't know it would work out, I thought I would make more money doing the job. I just felt like I had to know, that I didn't want to get to be an old man and look back on my life and say, back then when I was 19, I had this chance, I could have done something, and what if? Trying to live your life without what ifs. And that gave me the courage to say, you know what? I can wait a year on the job. I'm going to give this business a shot. And whether it works out or doesn't work out, I'd rather know and fail than not know. Right? When I quit on my business partners, worst day of my life. We were making no money. It was not working. We were fighting over what to do next. And I just felt like there was just too much pressure on me. Like, I can't handle this. I turned down this job to do this. I'm spending every day, all day on this thing, and it's just not working. You can only take so much, you know, before you break. And I broke, and I said I quit, and cried my face off. And the next day woke up, I had no idea what to do, but I remembered back to just feeling like I don't want to quit now, because I would feel guilty if I did. I felt guilty for quitting, right? And I could have just sat in that guilt and let it fester and let it build, and then again become an old man and look back on my life and wish that I hadn't done that mistake. Or the antidote to guilt is action. Wake up and go, you know what? I don't want to live with regret. I'm gonna go do this thing. Now, it ended up working out, but a lot of times it doesn't, and that's fine. Because if you go with the mantra that you'd rather know and fail than not know, everything starts to change. Most people are so stuck in their guilt that it becomes identity, that it becomes, you are this kind of person. Oh, I always play small, or oh, I'm always afraid, or oh, I'm always too scared to do that thing, or I'm going to say I'm going to do it and then I won't do it, right? We've built ourselves up around this identity that we are living in guilt, we don't follow through, and that we suck. And this is why there's a lack. This is why lack of belief is the #1 problem in the world, because we've trained ourselves to constantly feel guilty and stay in that guilt instead of rising through. So how do you actually rise through? How do you get through the guilt to take action? I'm going to give you 3 quick ideas that I think will help. #1 is to minimize your regrets. Minimize your regrets. Jeff Bezos calls it the regret minimization framework. And when I first saw that, it's like, that's it. You want to be able to look back on your life and say, I don't have that many regrets. Some things worked out, some things didn't work out, but I'm proud of how I acted. This is how we start to build self-love, self-confidence, self-trust, by being proud of the actions that you take. So the next time you're struggling with a decision, the next time, should I do this or should I do this? Project yourself forward. You're now 120 years old and you're looking back on your life. You're not caught up in the moment and the day-to-day and whatever stresses are stressing you out right now. You have perspective on your life. Which decision should you take? 120-year-old you would be proud of you for doing what? A or B? And try to run your filters through that lens. That maybe this thing will work, maybe it won't. Maybe I'll make a fool of myself, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll serve a ton of people with this, maybe I won't. But 120-year-old me would be proud of the choice that I make. Try to run your decisions through that framework. You minimize your regrets, you take a lot more calculated risks, and you'll be a lot happier with your life too. Number 2 is pay attention to the patterns. We have guilt patterns. You have a pattern of guilt. The same things keep coming up over and over and over and over again that will keep making you feel guilty over and over and over and over and over again. Think about what made you feel guilty in the past, or maybe you're feeling guilty about something right now. Think about that. What is that thing that makes you feel guilty? Pay attention to it. Maybe it's too late to act. Maybe the person that you wish you could have apologized to, maybe they've passed on and there's no way to have the conversation. Right? Like maybe in some situations, there's nothing that you can do to fix the thing that happened in the past. Okay. But paying attention to the pattern is important because that thing's going to come up again. Because if you've had lots of great ideas and never acted on it, guess what's going to happen? More ideas will keep coming back up to you. Life keeps throwing the same lessons at you until you learn them. This is your chance. This is your chance to learn them. So the next great idea that you have, do something about it. It's like, oh, there it is again. There it is again. There's a new idea. Oh, I'm playing small again. That when you can start to catch it, so it's not just something that happened a year ago or 10 years ago, but it's going to keep happening again. Different forms, not the same idea, not the same person, not the exact same situation, but it's the same idea. It will keep happening to you until you learn the lesson. There are patterns of guilt. And when you figure that out, it allows you to act a different way, a new way, a better way, a more bold way, a prouder way that 120-year-old you, back to point 1, would feel happy with. That if you can pay attention to the patterns, you can make a better decision the next time it comes up. And step number 3 is to step into service. Serving others heals a lot of wounds. When you feel like you've let yourself down, you've let other people down, that you're no good for anybody, that's the path down to anxiety and stress and regret and guilt and all the negative emotions. The easiest path out is to go help. It's to go feel like you are valuable, like you're doing something meaningful today. And meaning comes from impacting somebody else's life. Maybe it's impacting 1 million people by making video content or building your product or service or company. Maybe it's impacting the life of one person by having a meaningful conversation. Maybe it's holding the door for somebody or complimenting somebody, giving somebody a smile, asking somebody how they're doing. It doesn't have to be some giant act that requires $1 million to go off and do. You can choose whenever you want to have a meaningful impact on somebody's life. And when you feel that, when you step into service, it shifts how you feel about yourself. It shifts the self-identity from I'm worthless, from I constantly do this, from I keep making mistakes, I keep playing small, to I can bring value to other people. I can help. Get addicted to that. Because when you realize I can help, like you want to do it again. I want to help some more. I want to help on a bigger scale. I want to help on a deeper scale. I want to help. I want to keep doing that. It's going to lead you down a much brighter path because humans are built to serve. And if you're not happy, you're not serving. The antidote to guilt is action. Sitting there on your couch, feeling sorry for yourself, living in regret of all the things that you did wrong or should have done but didn't, doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve your family. It doesn't serve your community. It doesn't serve the world. It doesn't serve you to just sit there thinking about it, feeling bad for yourself. The answer is action. You can build an entirely new you, a you that you're proud of, a you that's having a huge impact, a you that when you look back on your life and say, that was a great life. I'm so happy with the choices that I made. That's possible if you can use guilt and flip it into action. Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
The deliver excellence rule. This is another prioritization move for me. It's like, okay, someone throws a big opportunity to me. It could lead to significant growth. I could get it going, but it compromises the deliver excellence rule, which is, wait, if I take on anything here, would that prevent me from delivering what I already promised the best that I could? Like for me, I'm very stretched in my schedule. I mean, very stretched. I got to get a lot done during the day. Big team, big brand, big business, big clients. I got to be good. But lots of great opportunities come my way that could be significant growth this year. But then the second level of that evaluative tool is to say, if I do that though, will that steal away from something I already promised to somebody I care about or who's important to our business? Will that make me fail to deliver what I wanted to deliver? And so I got to be honest and I got to prioritize. And I am, like, if you saw how much I work to prioritize things, doesn't mean I don't leave things. I mean, I'm sure my team could tell you 100 things I haven't done that I'm supposed to or whatever. So it doesn't mean I'm perfect. It just means I work really hard at it. I'm very diligent and focused on it because I got people counting on me. I got you. And I know you got people counting on you too. So if something comes up and it's like this great idea, but it doesn't lead to significant growth, or you're not going to start it, park it. But also, if it is something that you could get going and it would lead to significant growth, but it's going to screw up what you already promised, don't break your integrity. Believe in your ability to figure things out. I think that is the ultimate belief in life. That, you know what? I believe that I can figure out how things work, and I believe that I can get better. That fundamental structure in our mind that says, I believe in those two things, that I can figure things out and I can get better, enables us for lifelong improvement and growth. But without them, good luck. Because if you take on a task that you don't know how to do, you say, well, I don't know how to do that, so I quit. If you want to be like somebody who you see as a role model, but you don't believe in yourself, you say, oh, I'm not like that, so you quit. So without belief as the underlying element of your own mindset, there's no ability to grow. There's no ability to go anywhere. You have to look at this next stage of your life and say, I believe I can figure it out. If you have a great dream and you don't have any clue how to figure it out, you still go, I believe I can figure it out, which allows you to get up and get to work on Monday and start working towards it. If you don't believe you can figure it out, you don't have any what psychologists call expectancy or even agency, and so you won't begin the journey. But once you believe that you can figure it out and you can do it, then you'll begin. So always believe in your ability to figure things out. The power plant doesn't have energy, it generates energy. And I've been teaching that for like 15 years on stage. And one guy stands up one time and he goes, actually, you're wrong. At my event, there's 2,000 people at my event. He goes, well, you're actually wrong. I'm like, oh, how am I wrong? He says, well, a power plant doesn't generate energy. What it does is it takes energy from one source, upgrades it, so transforms the energy, then stores it and transmits it. So it's really transforming energy from one sort of location or one type of energy to another. Right. And I love that metaphor because I felt like that's my job. So much of my life is helping people reach another level of energy. Because if you don't reach another level of energy, you can't serve at another level. If you don't reach another level of energy, you can't feel better, be happier, be a better spouse. It's like everyone says, I want that next level, but they don't understand energy is the requirement to get there. And when we measured energy in our studies, we were talking about really mental energy, emotional energy, and physical energy. And it was a huge turning point in my life when I started realizing these things because that whole thing that we as entrepreneurs, we want to wait for maybe one day I'll feel energized, or maybe one day I'll feel joy, or maybe one day I can have fun after, all the money's in the bank, and you got the house or the cars or the money or the stuff. And then people go, then I'm going to be really a fun person. It's like, no, if you're not a fun person when you're broke, you're not going to be that much more fun when you're rich. And I think that people have to learn to bring the joy. It's one of our little taglines on our shirts, right? Bring the joy. And that says, you don't have joy, just like I don't think people have happiness. I don't think people have sadness either. I think that we are generating the emotions and the feelings that we experience in life. And as soon as we own that responsibility, life gets really fun. One of the major keys we found, the first high-performing habit, is seek clarity. And what we found is one of the practices that high performers do is they define the feeling they're after. And so when we had to explain that and later talk about it in the energy chapter, we had to differentiate between feelings and emotions, and they are different. Emotions tend to be, they're the same.
Yep.
Like they're physical. They're almost always automatic. Even though in the brain is creating associations, there's lots to happen. For us, they just kind of...
Emotion comes up.
Yeah, you're watching a movie and you're just sad. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm crying. You didn't even have the tissues ready. You're just like, blah, But the feelings are usually interpretations that we make of what that emotion was and how it sticks and the meaning we give it to it.
Yeah.
And the example I used to, I like to give, and I don't remember if it's in the book or not, honestly, because here's what's happened. This book is 400 pages. It was 1,481 when I finished.
Baby, you edited it down.
Yes, and it was 1,481 good, complete.
Yes.
Like it was like awesome.
Yes.
But I was like, that's gonna freak people out. So we're publishing a bunch in academic journals later and then stripped it down to 400 pages so it's more readable and fun and orientable. So I can't remember if this one actually made it in there, but the example I like to give is if you and I go to a haunted house.
Yeah. Which I love.
I love them. And they scare me the crap. But if you and I walk around, you walk around one of the walls in a haunted house, someone jumps out at you.
Yeah.
You and I are both gonna jump.
Yes.
We are emotionally going to experience fright immediately. It's gonna be there, right? But I might be freaked out for the next 5 minutes and you might be laughing. Why? It's the meaning and the feeling that we've defined it as. That's fine for everybody. Here's the issue that people have, and you have to be careful about when we start talking about energy, because emotional energy is real.
Yes.
And that is, look, if at 6, like we go to the haunted house at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. If at 9 p.m. now you're in your house, you're alone, but you're completely safe, and you still feel scared, that's not the haunted house's problem. That is the way that you are defining and working through your own emotions. You had the emotion of terror and fear, and you're still experiencing that feeling. That's a mental job, not an emotional job. So your job is to go, wow, I'm at my house. I've lived here for 10 years. I've never been threatened in this house. This is a safe place. I gotta redefine the feeling I wanna experience. And I work with an Olympic sprinter, gold medalist, Olympic sprinter, as a client. And this person's huge breakthrough in getting better, in going from literally won Olympics before, not medaling at all, to now gold. I said, what was the thing?
Yeah.
And one of the things they said to me was, I learned to define the feeling. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he basically said, if there's a bunch of us at the starting blocks and we're all in perfect poise and perfect condition, the one to bet on is the one that says, this is the way I want to feel in this race right now. I know my emotions are going crazy. Like my heart's beating. I can hear everybody. I'm waiting for that shot blast. I can see my goal. I know how important this is. And all these, their emotions are there.
Yeah.
But that person's defining the feeling going, I'm going to feel centered now. I'm going to get myself in the zone now. Even though the emotion of anxiety is there for all Olympic level competitors, all of them. But they define that emotion as a feeling that helps give them a performance edge. And I think that's important too. Bruce Springsteen says if he's ever backstage and doesn't feel like nerves, he's gonna hang it up.
Yeah.
But that's anxiety, he's just defining it differently. No matter where you are in accomplishing your dreams or moving towards the things that you really want in life, never let your small beginnings make you small-minded. It's easy to say, well, that's impossible. And I know lots of people are telling you that, that's impossible. You know how many people told me what I'm doing today is impossible? Brendon, you wanna be a writer? You can't write. Brendon, you want to be a trainer? You want to be a speaker? You want to do YouTube videos? You're not good on video. You're not good at this. You're not good at this. It's impossible. Oh, you don't understand how hard it is to make it, Brendon. It's so hard these days. The stuff that people tell me, and I know I've told you, is so nonsensical and based on so many of their own fears that have been unexplored that it's sad. And it can really cause great people to stop trying to do great things. So I want to encourage you, no matter where you are, believe in yourself, keep at it, keep working, keep going. I mean, success and fulfillment are going to come from your unflagging ability to believe in what other people call impossible. It's going to come from your unflagging ability to get up each day and work towards things that maybe you don't know where they're going. Maybe they're not getting you what you want right away. Maybe it's not easy. Maybe it is a struggle, but it is through that struggle and that effort and that dream and the desire that you get there. But I tell people all the time, there is a difference between passion and obsession. And high performers have obsession about the topic, right? They are obsessed about the topic in which they're trying to learn, master, grow into. And so that obsession is real. And I tell people the difference, here's how you know the difference between the two. When you're passionate, everybody cheers you on. They're stoked for you. Oh, you found your passion? Awesome. Follow your passion. Live with passion. Be passionate. Chase your passions. Everything, like passion, 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 passion. Passion's good. Like the world's gonna be like, yay, passion, right? When you're obsessed, they're like, why you gotta be so crazy? Why can't you be satisfied? Why do you always gotta get things so perfect? Why do you spend so much time here? When you're obsessed, people think you're nuts. So it's different. And it's like, I always tell people, if no one thinks you're crazy, you're not yet operating to the outer limits of your potential. You're not there yet. Because somebody in your life should say, man, you really care about this in like a crazy way. And when you get there, you know you found your thing. And not everybody finds that. I think that's also why it's scary. Some people go, well, I'm passionate or I'm happy, but I don't really obsess about anything. You know, most people obsess about, their shows on Netflix more than their life. I know people who obsess more about their thread count in their sheets at their house than they do about the impact they're making in the world. First way you should not compare yourself to others is in terms of, especially today, their fans, their fame, their followership, right? Their audience. Never do that. In my industry, that's very, very popular to do, and it's ruined a lot of people's lives who don't ever rise up to serve because they think they're not popular enough. It's like you write your first book and you don't have as many sales as other people, and you think, oh, well, I don't have the audience. Or you go to someone's fan page and you see, oh my gosh, look at their followership. Look at how many Instagram followers they have, how many Twitter followers they have. And because you see them so big, you think, oh, I could never be that, so you don't even begin. And a lot of people do that. They say, well, I'm not that big, so they never start. But as I always say, no matter how small you start something that matters. Begin it. If I began my career looking at my heroes, looking at a Wayne Dyer or a Tony Robbins or a Marianne Williamson, a Deepak Chopra, a Jim Rohn back in the day, or looking at people like Og Mandino's who'd sold millions of books, or even the famous books that you saw, millions and millions and millions of copies, if I gauged myself to that and thought that was the expectation, I would never begin. So you can't expect to start out with tons of people. Some people say to me all the time, well, Brendon, it's so easy for you because you got millions of people on your email list and you have millions of people on Facebook and tens of millions on YouTube. I say, it doesn't make it any harder for me. I still show up and shoot this video. And the reason I have the followers and the fans and the audience is because I showed up and I started when there was only 1 dude, 10 dudes, 100 dudes, 1,000 dudes watching us. My first seminar that I ever did, we only had 22 people in the room. And now we fill up seminars 9 times a year, often from people from 46 countries around the world, fly in, paying thousands of dollars a ticket. And what did I do? I started with 22 people in a room, and most of those people didn't even pay. And every time the guy walked in with water, I counted him as one of those 22. Like I had no followership. It's never about how big you start. It's that you start, and you get big by staying at it. Because what people do is they put out the first video, they write the first book, they try the first thing online and nobody follows, nobody watches, and they quit. They get disappointed. And where there's disappointment, there was too high of an expectation on achievement versus learning, versus process, versus beginning. What you want to do is never be disappointed. And the way that you're never disappointed is you understand every single step counts. Every single step is learning. Every single step gets you going. Creativity is not strongly correlated with high performance. And if you told me that 7 years ago, I would have fought with you for like 2 or 3 hours. But then in one interview with one of the world's largest CTOs, Chief Technology Officers, he said, Brendon, you know, they're a top 10 brand in the world. He said, we don't, he said, my team, he said, I'm not creative. My team's not creative, but we know how to execute and scale. And execution and scale is really important to long-term high performance. Creativity might get you in the game, but a lot of people are creative but can't work their way out of a bag. And I was like, I would have argued that forever because I'm a creative, I'm a writer and a coach. And I would have never thought that. You have to actually show up every day and inch yourself forward toward these dreams. And not only show up every day and once in a while inch yourself, I mean, every day you have to actually take an action that moves you forward. Not just research, not just thinking. Look, the power of intention is great, but without any initiative, it's dead, right? A dream is great, but without any movement, it's dead. You have to be moving towards every day. You can send an email every day. You can make a call every day. You can write something every day. You can create something every day. You can contribute something every day, but it has to be daily. Otherwise, it will never become actualized. The highest performers in the world didn't get there because they were lucky. They worked at it longer than everyone else. They had a better work ethic. And it's not that they necessarily always worked harder. They worked smarter because they were doing the research. They were taking the time to visualize how they would be distinct, different, how they would survive the tough times. They really kept at it. Keep every single day momentum going. And if you don't do that, there's no chance. Talk to any high performers I'm sure you've interviewed. They kind of know the service and the difference they want to make. Maybe not precisely, but they're asking the question. So that's some of what we know. They seek clarity. And that's kind of the first practice, is asking questions in those areas. And the other two real fast is when you're seeking clarity, they're more clear about the feeling they want to have. Like an Olympic sprinter who's won gold is more likely to have said before he went or she went on the track, how do I want to feel out there? Not like just the result, like when the foot's in the block and I'm arms down, like what do I want to feel? Like they're very aware of the feeling they're trying to get.
Yeah, I don't want to feel nervous and stressed. I want to feel calm and clear and smooth. And
and they're doing that self-talk, which is seeking clarity. And then the last one, which is really important, they're clear about what's meaningful to them now and what might be different in the future, which is something I didn't know until we did a lot of the interviews or the conversations. Is a lot of people kind of know what I like now. They know what their passion is. But it's like, what's going to be meaningful to you later, like in 5 years? They've thought about that. You know, I would say they've done the work. So that's just the first habit. And so the book kind of opens with that story of like finding we all have to decide who we are and what we want and how to get it at this stage of our life. And when we don't know that, you know, reaching high performance can be really hard.
Yeah. It's all about clear vision for me. It's the first chapter in my book is the greatest leaders in the world have a clear vision.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's it. And they got that vision by seeking clarity.
Yes.
That was the habit that gave them the vision. They were consistently seeking, like, I mean, they asked themselves more questions. That's one of our findings. They literally are doing more of the self-talk, asking more of the questions, which is so important.
So what's the first social habit?
Increase productivity. It's kind of like, no duh, high performers are productive dudes. But what the uniqueness is, they're not just pushing more paper or checking more boxes, because you know I both know a lot of people who, you know, their busy work isn't their life's work, so they don't feel fulfilled from their productivity. High performers are fulfilled from what they're accomplishing, which is a big measure. And here's what they did: they identified their primary field of interest, which is a big deal. Then they identified what we call PQO, prolific quality output, which is what's the outputs that matter and get recognized and rewarded the most in this primary field of interest. And then they went all in at it. They became almost singular focuses. Like, you know, when Jobs came back to Apple and got rid of all the product lines and said, these are what we're doing, that was prolific quality output. We're going to be prolific quality output on these things, not those. So it's important. Like for me, I thought there was this period of my life where I thought my primary field of interest was personal development. And that's what most of the world knows me for. I've never posted any marketing on my Facebook page in terms of like marketing advice. I teach that. That's way down in my funnel. My YouTube, my podcast, Facebook are all just personal development. So I really identified with that. And then I launched my first book, Life's Golden Ticket, which was my life's message. And it kind of bombed. It hit bestseller and then it died, bam, pow.
Yeah.
And it really bummed me out. And I realized why. I said, you know what? I've been thinking my primary field of interest is personal development. And so I did all the book. I read all the books. I went to all the seminars. I, studied with the gurus. I became friends with, Wayne Dyer and Tony Robbins, the big names. That's what I thought it was. And then I had to make a shift. And I shifted my primary field of interest to how to share a message. And it completely shifted. When I started learning, I was like, you know what my primary field of interest needs to be is how to share a message, because I already got the message.
Right. And
then I said, well, what's prolific in this area? Well, what's prolific is what's recognized in this particular area right at that time, which is 2006 and 2007. Online video was just coming in. I mean, YouTube and Facebook were young.
YouTube was like 2004, I think.
Yeah.
Or 2005 or something like
young.
that. Yeah, young.
But what's mattering now is video. And I went all in. I've created 13 online courses because in my primary field of interest, sharing that personal development message was everything. So I learned how to share everything. And I went from, kind of a busted first book to in 18 months, 4.6 million in revenue.
Wow.
Because I learned how to sell. And I learned that sharing and selling a message was just as important, because if you don't make the money, you can't sustain the message. I had the message, but I wasn't making any money. I was the poor, broke writer dude. And I was so I shifted my primary field of interest and I got to understand marketing. I got to understand business and what's going to be prolific in what I'm doing now. And that's creating products to sell. Oh, I got to create more products, higher quality products. I showed you like my brochures and
beautiful stuff.
Just like super branding, all my books, I did all the covers of all my books and I obsessed about, I was like the look and the feel and stuff I didn't care about before. And that changed everything. So what I tell people is if you want to increase, don't just get more stuff done, get more of the right stuff done and really go in on it. I mean, super obsessed about the quality and really focus. It's that old saying, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, you better careful what your main thing is. Great leaders envision a compelling and different and vibrant future than what is here. They have an alternative, clear view of what the world could be like tomorrow than it is today, right? They have a shared purpose. They believe that they and others would be compelled by, interested, inspired by, and want to work towards. And that's a big deal. And you always read about it in leadership, right? You have to have vision. I mean, it's biblical. Where there is no vision, people perish, right? We know the power of having that vision. So you have to sit down though and actually do it. The reason we say envision versus just have a vision is you have to sit, it's a practice of envisioning. What should tomorrow look like for my team? What should tomorrow be like for my business, for my organization? What should tomorrow be like for my life? And not just tomorrow, a long-term mindset and view, the dream, right? That magnificent obsession, that bold desire, the moonshot goals and purposes and missions of life, the bigger picture, that's envisioning a different reality in the future than we experience today. And that's what everybody gets excited about in leadership. Where there's no vision, there's no leadership. Where there's no vision, people perish. So you have to envision. We always have to continually sit down and envision, where are we? Where can we be going? It's an active process. If you set a vision one time and you forget about it, it's not gonna help you accomplish the influence or the impact you want in your lifetime or in those that you lead. Your life doesn't end up an accident. Your life is a series of actions that you initiate or don't initiate. And that your thoughts are gonna control that roadmap. And so how are you using your mind today to either make yourself feel great or not? I posted on Instagram this morning. I said, listen, your destiny is ultimately controlled by a decision you already made this morning. Everyone watching this already made a decision this morning. This morning, they made it a life-changing, huge decision this morning. And that is either I'm gonna get up, enter the world with no intention, go through the motions to hopefully get by or survive, or I am going to get clear in this morning about what I want, what I'm going after, who I'm going to be, how I'm going to serve, and whether or not I'm going to be excellent and extraordinary or not. And the problem is most people never make that conscious decision. So I was learning early on, make the conscious decision about who you want to be each day, stay congruent with that. And that was, for me, a kid who was just going through the motions, all of a sudden going, oh, who do I want to be? What do I want my relationships to be like? That was really important. You must define your mission. You need to have a mission for what you're doing today. You need to have an intention for what your next task is going to be. What happens is most people just kind of show up and they go, okay, well, I guess I'll do some stuff, but they have no intention whatsoever, so they end up doing too many things that mean nothing towards their mission. You should figure out what is it you desire in life and figure out the steps to get there and start working a plan to get there and minimizing everything else. Getting very clear on the mission, and working the plan. Everything else, guess what it gets? A no. Until you reach that mission or until you're significantly on your way, that you have free resources to be able to focus elsewhere. And that's what people do. They take on too many projects because they're not clear about their mission. Because I'm guessing if you're watching this, you're somebody who wants to add value and make a difference in the world. So anytime someone asks you to do something, you're like, yeah, let me help you. But that might not have anything to do with the quality of life or the objective or the thing that you're trying to achieve or the service you're really intending to offer, right? And I know how hard it is because I'm so pulled myself towards causes and towards volunteerism, towards helping so many people. But guess what? If I help everybody in lots of different areas, I might not make my ultimate mission of serving the people I want to serve the most, of making my dreams come true so I can support more people, of running my business so I can support more people. Meaning it's easy to take your eye off the ball if you don't know what the ball is. And people often have never defined their mission. And if you don't have one right now for this day, if you didn't have a drive, a mission, a written down statement about what you were going to accomplish today, a checklist, a goal sheet, a time management tool that you filled out today, and you're just showing up today and going, well, I guess I'll see what my inbox tells me to do today. And you just respond to everybody else's desires and everyone else's emails, and you're just always in reaction, always responding to everybody. No proactivity towards a mission that you defined yourself, you'll be lost. You'll find that because you never focused on that one thing or moving towards those several things that were your priority, that you're just lost. Because, and here's another thing, focus goes out the window when we don't have progress, right? If we're not progressing towards something, our focus goes out the window. We just don't pay attention to anything. We don't feel good about ourselves. You want to get more focus in your life? Get more progress. As you progress more, you start to get excited. You start to pay attention to things that are working, that are moving you forward, and you start to find more focus in your life. I started setting personal challenges every month. At the beginning of each month, I do this whole thing where I holistically evaluate my life on the first of every month. And it's like these 10 different categories of my life, from emotional to relational to financial to career, mission, objectives, all these things. I go down that on the first of the month, just kind of holistic viewpoint of my life. And then I set a personal challenge and a professional challenge. And I do that every month. Every Sunday, I revisit my progress. Every Sunday for 23 years. So it's not like I'm just, one day ended up in a happy life. It was like that a level of self-evaluation that most people avoid until their birthday or New Year's. I do it every Sunday and every first of the month, and I don't ever miss.
My whole career has been in some way or another a struggle against my own doubts all along the way. As much as people say, gosh, you're so confident and you're the higher performance guy and everything else. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't mean I don't struggle. Matter of fact, I probably put myself in situations where I must be challenged and I must struggle more than any normal, sane person, I'm constantly pushing myself all the time because I evaluate struggle as something to be honored. It used to be struggle was something that was truly honored by people. They thought that was something that built character. They thought that was something that was good. And now we've got to be such a convenient-driven society that's into ease and so much just, I think, an unbelievable level of entitlement, where people don't think they have to earn it. And I'm always like, wait, if you have a dream, never forget, if you knock on the door of opportunity, that it is work who answers. It takes a lot of work to achieve your bigger dreams, to become the best you who you can be, to serve more, to create more, to contribute at that highest level. Man, it's a lot of work. If you're not doing block time, here's what your day might look like. You have all these different slots of time, right? And you're just gonna plug in as you go through the day. You're gonna plug in, I'll work some there, and I'll work some there, and then I'll try to cram stuff up. Right at the end of the day, I'll try to cram that sucker in. Any crammers? Okay, just checking. No judgment. You're just not going as fast as you could. That's all. Crammers, I love crammers. Because they're easy to get to move faster, because you do have that diligence of when there's a deadline and it's on, you can go, which really serves you. But we got to take you from a crammer to a preparer to a high performer. And the way that we do that is to look at this and go, listen, if you keep leaving all these time slots to randomness, what happens is they start to get filled with the big D. Distraction. Some reason it seems like this hit home for some people. I don't know why. How many recognize what I'm talking about here? So now you add up, take this out. You might not be thinking too seriously about it, but let's say that's like a day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 work hours. You didn't know I drew that on purpose. If you leave your time to randomness, you are stealing from your greatness. If you leave your time to randomness, you are stealing from your greatness bit by bit, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month by month, quarter by quarter, year by year, and decade by decade. And it's the little things like this where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't get anything done, because you've got all these random approaches to your day. First enemy we all have is doubt. We doubt whether or not we're capable. We doubt whether or not we're worthy. We doubt whether or not we'll succeed. We doubt whether or not we even deserve it. And it's so unfortunate, because I think doubt is one of the greatest enemies of our lives. And it's so easy to overcome, but most people won't practice the discipline of overcoming it, which is weird, right? They're just like, oh, I'm so doubtful, and they stop. And it's like, if you have any negative recurring emotion in your life, doesn't maturity require you to face it and say, hey, how do I fix this? If you're always doubtful, you can't just wander around saying, oh, I'm so doubtful, like some kind of victim. That's not fair to the humanity you've been given, to that real power of free will that says, hey, you can direct your consciousness. That's why you have this big prefrontal cortex. Other animals can't, we can. So handle it. If you've been plagued with doubt your whole life, then face it. Stop running from it. I know that sounds hard to say to people, but I had the same story. I was so doubtful that people would care about what I say. I was so doubtful that people would want to read my books or listen to me at all. I was so doubtful that I could chase my own dreams. And then I realized, for what reason am I doubtful? Because of past failures in this space? No, I'm trying something new. Because people told me I might not be able to do it. So what makes them an expert on my capabilities and my potentialities? I thought, well, why am I so doubtful? We're doubtful because the germ of fear spread in our body because somebody planted it there one time, or we cultivate it with our own thoughts. And at some point, maturity and consciousness says, if doubt has been plaguing you, let's have a look at it. And let's realize, well, how do you banish it? Well, every single thing that we know from spirituality, from philosophy, from the great writers and the great texts of the human culture has all revealed one thing. Where there is doubt, grant me faith. That we have to have faith. And faith does not mean the absence of doubt. Matter of fact, the very definition of faith relies that doubt is still there, right? You can't have faith unless there's some part of you that says, well, I'm going to go anyway despite the doubt. So I'm not saying we have to get rid of doubt forever and handle it. I'm saying doubt should never prevent you from advancing when you feel like advancing. That in your own mind, you must say, okay, I must trust in my abilities. I must trust that I will figure it out. I must trust that I can build it. I must trust that I can get some help and progress even though the doubt might be there. Look, the hero is a hero because the hero does it anyway, right? Even though the hero's terrified and risking it all, goes anyway. And we're all heroes in some way. We can all be courageous. But I also think, you know what? Society overblows courage. Society says, you know, courage has to be some big, magnificent act. But it's not. I mean, courage in this world anymore is just having the belief in yourself and having the ability to genuinely express who you are. If you're doubting yourself, the only way through is to give yourself more faith and take more action. And with more faith and more action comes more competence. With more competence comes more confidence. In psychology, they call it the competence-confidence loop, right? The more you learn and try, the more you master and develop. So go out there, even with that, yes, let the doubt be there, but do it anyway.
Why do you think people can slip into an obsession over Netflix or whatever, or thread count, but they don't do that for something that could really change their life?
Feedback.
That's interesting. It's not what I expected you to say. What do you mean by that?
Because, you know, buying something or getting pulled into Netflix, being obsessed about something that gives you no feedback is not scary. A real obsession, like trying to make an impact in the world, you're gonna get feedback. You try to make a difference in somebody's life, they're gonna tell you, that doesn't resonate with me, Brendon. You try to make a difference in a nonprofit, you try to change the world, you try to start something like this, and the views come or they don't come, there's feedback. And people are terrified. It's one of the 4 central fears we all have is rejection. We're terrified, like to be rejected. And think about, if you really wanna make an impact, you're going to get a lot of judgment, you're gonna get a lot of hate, and ultimately you're gonna get rejection. People are gonna like just diss on you, people are gonna say that's not good enough, people are gonna say, who do you think you are? And people are so worried about that they stop. And so it's easier, things that don't give you feedback. Watching Netflix don't give you no feedback. It's easy, there's no disappointment there. Even if you don't like the show, what do? You just go on to the next show. There's no disappointment there. You know, I think trying to make an impact, there's a lot of disappointment and fear and potential for rejection. So people don't get obsessed about making a difference and making an impact because it can hurt.
I need you to do your work before you respond to the world. It's the #1 thing I'm always telling people in High Performance Academy and all my other training sessions is if you are constantly waking up in the morning and all you do is just reply to everybody and you're replying to their texts, you're replying to their needs, you're replying to their emails, all of a sudden the day is ripped away and you find yourself out of your own routine. But if you set up your morning to win, or you set up blocks of time to win, as we'll talk about, and you do that first, do your work first, it's easier to stay disciplined. If you're saying, you know what, this year I want to, in these next couple months, I want to be more healthy, great. Get your health stuff out of the way in the morning. You know, create your shake, do your workout, create a healthy lunch to take to work, and you're off and going to a good start. But if you wait for the remainder of the day for discipline to strike, it never will. Be more explicit in communicating your boundaries. Be more explicit in communicating your time. So if you're gonna go to a meeting, sit down and say, guys, I have 45 minutes today for this meeting. Can't go a second over. And they're like, oh, okay. And stop going over on your times. If you said you were gonna work out for an hour, stop, go. A lot of the, what I call bleed time, ends up taking away from our balance. Bleed time is those things where you go over on things that you didn't need to go over on. You know, that one cocktail with your friend ended up being on 16, you know, and you lost the entire night now. Or that one, you know, lunch meeting you were gonna have turned into 4 hours and now you've lost the day of work. Or that one show you were gonna watch before getting back to work turned into a whole season and you're like, oh no, the night is gone. That's called bleed time. It's where so much time just dissipates because you didn't stick to your mark. So set your boundary, communicate it clearly with people, and don't go over on things anymore. A lot of people, if they just started with the intention, said, we're only gonna do this for this much time, and then we gotta go, if they stuck to that, they would get better balance.
What we found in our research, which surprised me, high performers do not report working on their strengths any more than regular people. So that's not what gives them the edge. One of the chapters opens up with this guy. He wrote this email, really highly successful guy. And he wrote this email to me, says, you know, and I'd put him through all this. I put him through StrengthsFinder, the Berkman, the Colby, the Myers-Briggs, put him through everything. This is one of my first coaching clients ever. I knew everything about him. We knew all his background. We did all the homework. Had his peer review, you know, his 360 assessments from work. And then I watched him fail for 2 years. And he wrote me this email and he said, Brendon, stop telling me like what successful people are like, because we know my strengths, I'm not getting ahead. And start telling me what they do. And that's what this book became out. It's like, what do you need to do? Because, and in this email he wrote this, which is where that finding came from. He said, this was so good. Listen to this line. He said, as a leader, I have to be honest with myself that my mission and vision should never be made to bow down to my limited human strengths. I should have to rise up to my mission or vision. The strengths aren't the relevant thing. The question is, what is necessary for me to develop into to reach that mission? It's like, your strengths are great. And it's like, yes, of course do your strengths. But that's kind of like, what I tell people is like, let's imagine you have a bear and that bear wants to go on top of this cliff over here and it's never been on the cliff and it wants to get that new honey up there, right? Telling the bear to focus on his strengths, to go somewhere it's never gone before and do something it's never done before is stupid. It's like saying, hey, you know what? Just try being more of a bear.
Right.
If I just, you say, Brendon, I got this big new vision. I just say, just try being more of Lewis. I mean, it's a spiritual level that feels good, but you and I both know you're going to have to develop far beyond your comfort zones. And strengths are typically comfort zones. We got to overcome that and go to the next level.
And develop new skills and overcome certain fears and all these other things that are going to help us get to the next level. Is that right? Or?
Yeah. The whole conversation of beyond the comfort zone really requires us to go beyond our strengths. I'm a writer, I'm a coach, and I'm a trainer. My job is to share things that are relevant to the teaching point. So it's, what am I trying to teach? Now I'll share case studies about my life or some research, but it's pretty limited towards only what I'm teaching. And people sign up for me to teach a very specific thing. So they're not seeing the whole picture of my life. They're just learning that specific thing. So I think it also left a lot of people going, okay, he's super successful, but I don't know anything about him.
Right.
And that created...
It's hard to trust people you don't know anything about.
Yes. Or you read the Motivation Manifesto, right? There is no Brendon in that book. The publisher famously turned down the book. We had a $2 million book deal. I turned in the book. And the editor goes, what the hell is this? You wrote it like it's, 1776. There's not one story of you in here. Your audience wants to know about you. I'm like, yeah, but that's not what I'm writing for. I'm writing for the art. And so they said, we can't publish and we can't this book is unmarketable.
So you wrote a $2 million check back.
Wrote it back, which is painful because I'd already spent it. But
then you went and sold 1 million copies.
Yeah, then we went into 32 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list after they turned it down.
With no publisher. Well, I guess you had like a...
Yeah, we went to Hay House and they supported it and distributed it and did a great job on it. And I love them and their community really got behind the book because they knew I wrote it for the art, not for I didn't sell out on the book. This was my artistic... My art has never been like talking about Brendon. My art has been, I want to teach, but I want to teach in a way that really hits you in the heart and gives you habits that you can implement in your life. But that also took me out of the picture a little bit because I didn't want to be the guru. I didn't want to be, I'm from Montana. We're pretty private there. And one of our main sayings there is, the time to have the map is before you enter the woods. So I just wanted to hand people the map. I didn't want to hand people like, look at me. I also had a big influence from my high school journalism teacher. And she said, there's two kinds of people. One who walks into a room and goes, here I am. And the other person walks into a room and goes, there you are.
If you want another amazing Brendon Burchard video, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
I wake up every morning. Espresso keep me going. I wake